Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and I'm back with Dead of Night here, and we're going to be talking about Shining Spears today because they look awesome, right? They just look awesome. We want to play them. So, Dead of Night, you've used Shining Spears in a lot of your games. What do you think about them, man?
I think they're very sneaky tough. You wouldn't think it with their wound profile and their low toughness, etc. But the hard to hit and advancing, making their invul turn into a 4-up.
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
pretty good, huh?
yeah, like in combination, it could make them kind of durable.
Yeah, I really
Uh,
especially like it because, opponents are going to be wanting to use kind of high AP against them, right? Because they do have a
yeah,
3 plus save, so people are going to be looking at that and being like, well, maybe overcharged plasma weapons can deal with them, right? Those
and you're probably
overcharged
getting
plasma,
cover.
yeah, exactly. Like you're not going to be able to get a normal save against it. So having that invul save of 4 plus can help you out against those kind of attacks.
Yeah, so they're just sneaky durable. But
Yeah.
I feel like also you got to use them in kind of their traditional role.
Hmm.
Use them like they're meant to be used. Go send them at Terminators or light infantry and just let them eat and, catch their point value back that way.
Hmm.
And they're durable enough to do that job, kind of, still, you
Yeah,
know.
that's interesting. So like anything basically without strikes first, you know? Like cuz then they're just murdered. Like you don't want to send them after a custodes or anything like that. But if you're going against your like regular like standard terminators, you get your shot off first, you get your shooting attack,
Yeah,
and
you
then
get
you
your
get a charge
shooting.
in. I mean, that's pretty
Yep.
good. They are a
Even
little bit
even your
expensive, but
yep, even your 3-pack between the shooting and the melee, you have a decent number of attacks just with a 3-pack alone.
right.
So you got 10 shots shooting, you got your cannon and your 2 catapults. That's 7, and your 3 lances.
And you're always going to go with the Star Lance, of course, because that's,
Oh, yeah,
you got
absolutely.
to go with that strength 9, AP minus 3, right?
Yep, and then melee, um, I I like both the Star Lance and the Paragon Saber, kind of.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, you're a Paragon Saber guy.
I
Well,
so when I run them, I usually run
uh-huh,
them, 3 by 3, and I'll go,
uh-huh,
1 Saber, 2 Star Lance.
uh-huh. Well,
That's how I like to play
talk
them.
to me about the Paragon Saber because I'm interested in that actually because it's more attacks, it's the
Yeah, it's
same
more attack.
strength, but it doesn't have the lance special rule, right?
True.
So like does that unit that you have, it's going after other targets. It's probably going after things like Marines and stuff like that.
I like it as the guide target as well
Oh,
with the
okay.
Paragon Saber.
Right on, dude.
So
Yeah.
right. So yeah, it's kind of like a little niche thing, but I mean, you have extra attack out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Go after Marines, stick in combat with them a little bit, use that, I mean, the Star Lance has the Lance special rule, so it hits harder on charge, but doesn't necessarily hit harder in, other phases of combat, so that makes sense. That's cool. I like the Paragon Saber. I really
And he
miss
just looks
its,
super cool.
and it's cool, yeah, dude. Like,
Right.
because the Shining Spears are kind of like the cavalry of, the Eldar, and you know what they kind of remind me of is like, in Warhammer Fantasy you have like the dragon princes and stuff like that, and you have the silver helms, the elven kind of like horsemen. Well,
Right.
that's like the Shining Spears.
No, exactly, exactly.
So like that's
Yeah,
that's
so
really cool.
your 3-pack squad with a Paragon Saber, they're melee, so you get 10 shooting attacks, then you got 12 melee attacks, which is pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Even
What?
so, if you go Star Lance, you got 10 melee attacks, so you
Right.
20 attacks
You throw guide
out
on
of
them, and you're re-rolling all your hits and shooting and in combat.
right,
Yeah,
which is
that's
neat.
good. Yeah, that's like you said, that's kind of like stealthy good. Like on paper they don't look great, right? Especially for their points cost, but
Right,
they still
they'll
hit
go hit that
hard.
5-pack of Marines hard,
Yeah, they're
you
still
know.
going to eliminate that unit. Whereas a unit of Howling Banshees, 85 points, is not going to be able to eliminate that 5-pack right away. They're going to have to wait for another round of combat. They could fall back. Then you get shot.
I used to kind of hate that they had a They changed to our bigger base now.
Yeah.
But I think in 10th it's not as bad. Like, obviously, it's harder to hide them,
Hmm.
but it's also like they're still kind of a throwaway unit at the end of the day,
Yeah, I
so, like,
mean,
you
they are a
disagree with
little bit
them.
expensive, but check this out, dude.
Or they
Remember,
have OC2, you
that's
still have to have
true.
an objective with them,
That's true. No, I actually think they're really good on objective, like objective style play, if you can get them around the edge of the battlefield, you know?
Right, they're
Now,
quick.
yeah, they're pretty fast. 14-inch movement. You're going to want to advance the first turn anyway, probably, get
Yeah,
that extra invul save and just, get up the board quick. But check this out. The WTC just came out with a new ruling on combat through ruins, and I think this doesn't quite benefit the Shining Spears, but I think it might be worth looking at because people are going to be deploying their infantry different now because of that ruling. So if you're playing on WTC, like kind of ruling and kind of following their guidelines, infantry
right,
models and beasts can now charge into ruins and count as if they're using the barricades rules instead of like the ruins rules. So like, before how the people would, kind of place their infantry so that you couldn't actually get into combat with a unit on the other side of the ruins. You'd have to like go
right.
all the way around, which is a bunch of bull crap, let's be real. Like, like is that kind of stuff has always happened in Warhammer 40K. Like people have always kind of like tried to find those little like
I'm
base
guilty.
yeah, we're all guilty of it to some degree, right? But like for it to go on so long and like GW to never like find a fix for it is in my mind a little ridiculous. Remember that fix
Right,
they used to have for it, like, oh, we'll just give an engagement range of 2 inches, and it's like, oh, then that causes more issues than it really solves.
right, exactly.
So like I think the WTC ruling is good in a lot of ways. It does have drawbacks, and I'll probably eventually do a video on that and what the drawbacks are, but it is good for beasts and infantry, right? But it's not good for shining spears because they don't benefit from it. But check this out. If you're doing the WTC rules and you have like striking scorpions or something like that, people aren't going to worry so much about that 1 inch range, right? They're not going to
Right,
really worry about it. So that can give Shining Spears a little bit of a leg up because it's not going to be as hard to charge in anymore. You know?
yeah,
Like people don't expect it as much. Like people can't really pull that cheese against you as much. So it's decent. That means you can use your large base. You do still have to go around the ruin, but as long as the other Shining Spears are, in range of your model that's in base to base engagement range, like you're good, you know?
yeah,
So it can be a little bit easier for them. Not saying that a prepared opponent wouldn't be able to still stop them using that, but it is a little bit better. And I really have enjoyed using them as like basically to clean up the occupants of transports. So
yeah,
like I use them in a list where I was running basically just all jet bikes, like a jet bike themed army, and I was using them against my Ultramarines buddy, and he loves running transports. So like popping a transport can sometimes be difficult because you also have to deal with the unit inside. Otherwise, that unit is just going to pop up on the objective and just stay there and hold it, right?
right,
So like having a fast unit that can engage something in combat, not only kill the unit but also take the objective from your opponent and force them to do something about it
right.
is really
Which
good.
which is cool because
Yeah,
everything that we're saying here makes the Shining Spears a utility unit all day.
right. And
You know.
I loved what you said about using guide on them because I think guide is something that's typically not thought of for them, but this means that a 3 pack of Shining Spears with guide can have a decent chance of killing enough Space Marines, even 10 of them, on an objective to then out OC them later on. You know?
Yeah. The the super sneaky Doom is really good with
Doom as
the
well,
spears
yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, it makes it so
absolutely.
they can
If
kind
you
of
can get
target things way out of their range.
yeah, with the
Like
shooting attacks, with the twin shuriken catapults, shuriken cannon, and the Paragon saber. Yeah. Because they won't
yeah,
get the double bonus, but they will get the bonus on their shooting attacks and their, the Paragon Saber if you have it, which is dirty, dude. like +1 to wound on the
Right,
Paragon Saber.
right there, you're popping the transport with your little Shining Spear squad at that point.
Yeah, dude. I mean, they can punch up against stuff, with Doom, which I
I
really
I
like.
I have not tried them. I'm going to though. I definitely need to try them with Shroud Runners. That it has to be
Oh, with lethal
pretty
hits?
gnarly there too. Yeah,
Hmm. Let's see. Well, would they actually be good with
as a support unit.
well, I'm thinking Shining Spears with Guide are good, but then check this out. First couple turns of the game, if you're not like carrying around, Wraith Blades or Wraith Lords or anything, Avatar of Cain, you throw Fortune on these guys. Now check
Yeah,
this out. Like basically what it is, first couple turns of the game, your opponent's not going to just throw an expensive unit onto an objective typically, unless you're playing Custodes or, you're playing Necron, Canoptic Court, So your opponent throws a unit on there to kind of bait out your other units. And the Shining Spears just kind of gladly take it because they can destroy that unit on the objective. So if you move, you shoot something, you charge in, you kill them, you take the objective. Now you're vulnerable, but you have a 4+ invul save. You have +1 to wound on your unit, or I guess what would it be?
hard to
-1 to wound?
wound. Yeah,
Yeah,
hard
I
to
mean,
wound. I always
yeah,
say.
you're harder to wound with Fortune. And you already have a 3+ save, you have toughness 4, you have 2 wounds. So, possibly you're at minus. Oh, I guess you're just -1 to hit as well because of acrobatic grace, right? So you're at -1 to hit, you're at -1 to wound, and you have a 4+ invul save.
I always like to think
Not
as
bad.
well. Like you have your fate dice, automatic save a dice.
Right.
There's always that in the back pocket as well.
Oh,
Like I
absolutely.
always add that into my unit's durability.
Oh, absolutely, dude. 100%. 100%. And I think they're definitely, I mean, are they a super competitive unit? Probably not, but I think they're
Um,
good for, if you use them right, I think they can still do work. It's like anything, like I've had games in the past where they really love a certain unit and it may not be a meta unit, but because they've used it so much, they kind of learn the tricks and how to use it. It's like
exactly, and
forced to
it catches
adapt.
people off guard. Yeah,
They're
it
like
catches people off
forced to
guard too.
evolve. Yeah, absolutely. It's like
Like, who knows what a shining spear does in 10th edition? You know,
I mean, yeah, that's true.
like
Nobody knows. They look at them, they're like, what? Like, I've never seen this unit. Because I've never seen a list with these guys in it in competitive play. I've never seen it. I mean, it probably exists out there, but I've never seen a podium list with Shining Spears. And I
now,
have to think it's just because of the fly rules and how that kind of works and how like mounted jet bike units really aren't competitive right now. Because if you look at Custodes, they arguably have some really good bikes, right? Like they hit really
right?
hard, they're really fast, but what keeps them from being competitive? Well, the large bases and the
Yeah,
fly. They're flying mounted, so this is a game of ruins. This is a game where everything is basically ruins.
yeah, for
So like,
sure.
what's the bane of like mounted combat units? Ruins, you know?
I have a question for
Yeah.
you. Would you run 3 packs of shining spears at 100 points?
Would I
Would you do that
use
all
three
day?
of them? Wait, do you mean one 3-pack or
Yeah,
three
yeah.
3-packs?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Would you feel more comfortable at 100 point as
I would,
opposed to
yeah,
120?
I would. I think 120 is a little bit much because then they can't trade effectively with other types of units around their points cost. Like, I'd be more comfortable trading with intercessors at 100 points, you know, heavy
Right.
intercessors. I'd be okay with charging them into that target because I know that, yes, I'm slightly more expensive than that unit,
Would you run
but
spears more?
yeah, I would. I would consider them more at 100 points, you know?
Now, your Shroud Runner, right? We're
Hmm.
at 80 points.
Yes.
I think the Shroud Runner's undercosted. Would you run
I
Shroud
think it's
Runners at 100
undercosted.
points?
I'd probably consider running a unit at 100 points. I think that's a little much, though, still, for them. The reason I think that 100 points is too much for them is because the role that they use is not for damage, it's really for, like, utility, right? And if we look at the GW's pricing model on, like, how they price units, competitive units, it seems like they only touch the units that can do a lot of damage,
Yeah.
right? Like, they didn't touch
So my
Swooping Hawks, you know? Because
right.
swooping hawks don't do a whole lot, a bunch of damage. but they're great at the objective game, you know. And I feel like Shroud Runners are really good at the objective game, and I don't think GW wants to overly punish units for being good at objectives. They want to punish units that are oppressive in other ways, you know, either in the
Right.
damage they deal or the control they exert on the battlefield. Like that's why the Night Spinner got nerfed, right? The Night Spinner didn't do great damage, but the Night
So
Spinner stopped people from being able to get to objectives and really just kind of controlled the board in a really unfair way against certain armies, and I think that's why they were nerfed.
yeah. So I was trying to do some weird math with you here, right?
Yeah.
So a squad of Shining Spears 3 pack, 3 pack of Shroud Runners, 200 points. So I was trying to see if
Yeah.
you're comfortable with the Shining Spear at 100 points and also Shroud Runner at 100 points, because
Hmm.
if you're running both, you're still looking at 200 at
Yeah,
the
true.
end of the day.
True, but you're not
So,
necessarily using them together, you know? And I think that's where I'm getting with it is like I don't know if I would use them together, if that makes sense. Because check this out, right? Like when you're setting up on the battlefield and you have a target in mind for your shining spears, right? Like you're gonna hide them behind some trainer, maybe you even have them in reserves, right? To rapid ingress against your opponent. Like the role that the Shroud Runners are going to have isn't going to be the same that the Shining Spears are going to have. Because the Shining Spears don't
right,
really need the lethal hits, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice, but if you look at the math behind it, it's like, okay, you have a shuriken
well,
cannon, and you have two shuriken catapults, and then you have the laser
right,
lances, right? You might
right.
get a couple of auto wounds out of that, but the question you have to ask yourself is that going to tip the scale in your favor against the targets they're going to go after? And it's probably not, you know?
What I'm looking at though is also the extra damage you're getting from that support unit.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I agree with what you're saying. The combo isn't necessarily the best because there's limited shooting for sure, but you're also getting that shooting out of the Shroudrunners as well,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
they're like they're doing a couple other weird things for you.
Yeah, and they're
I'm
good at
just saying,
shooting.
supporting the Shining Spears.
Yeah,
Another another unit I think that would be really good at supporting them is the Sky or yeah
Skyrunner.
Skyweavers,
Oh,
Skyrunners.
Skyweavers.
Yeah, Skyweavers.
Interesting. I
That's the
didn't
one.
think of that. Actually, yeah, Skyweavers are awesome too because they have the haywire. You know,
Right.
I actually think So check this out, right? Like we're talking about blowing up transports. Skyweavers can't blow up a transport by themselves because haywire will do an average of 6 to 9 wounds against a transport, and usually transports have like 10 wounds, right?
Yeah.
So unless you roll like insanely high, you're not going to be able to do that 12 wounds. But Shining Spears can
We'll finish it off
easily finish
there.
it
Yeah.
off and then charge the unit
Melee. Yeah.
inside, which is exactly, dude, which is
With spears
probably going to.
and
I
with
think the
I mean
spears could probably do it themselves at that point. They can clean up by themselves. But yeah, you have the Skyrunners as well, right? Or not Skyrunners,
with
Skyweavers.
Skyweavers. Yeah.
The Skyweavers that can charge in there, with their like Zephyr Glaives and stuff like that. You know what Zephyr Glaive always reminds me of? Have you ever seen that like YouTube series, Duralius and Associates?
No.
God, dude, I to this day, I think the creators of that show took it off YouTube at some point because I can't find it anymore. But like that was such a funny. Anybody out there listening to this, if you've ever seen Duralius and Associates, leave a comment in the comment section, man, and just, am I a weirdo for thinking that's funny, or is that actually legitimately funny? Like let me know, dude. Yeah, it was funny because there was this running joke in the show that there was this ancient, kind of legendary blade called the Zephyr Blade, and it was like supposed to be super powerful. And then when they finally got the Zephyr Blade, it was like this like little toothpick. It's like the size of a
Yeah.
toothpick, But it was powerful, but it was just super small. So like every time I think about that, I'm just like I just think of that. I don't know. But and the reason I think about it is because when I was running my jetbike list and I was running the Zephyr Glaives on them, I charged into a unit of Marines, 5 Marines, thinking like, oh okay, they'll probably like kill them, and then they just whiffed, man. I just rolled so bad, and I was like, man, these are like not as good as I thought, you know, like It's really funny because Harlequins in ninth edition would just basically run through anything they hit. It was like no problem, just like But now they don't do that, so you have to kind of play with them differently. And I think that's the same thing with Shining Spears. Like if you
Yeah,
apply the same logic to Shining Spears that people are applying to like Quinn units and stuff like that, you're kind of reach the same conclusion that yeah, Shining Spears aren't going to be able to kill two units a turn. They're not going to be able to shoot at something, kill it, and then charge something and kill it. They're going to have to focus on one thing and
yeah.
destroy it that way. The shame is that they're too expensive right now for really what they do, because they are effective at killing certain targets. But
They can target a little bit.
yeah, they could.
At least buy you a turn, maybe.
Yeah, and I don't think they're bad at surviving. I mean, like you said, they're kind of like stealth, durable, and they're durable against targets that are kind of hard hitting, which have a lot of single weapon shooting. Like targets that would be normally good at killing bikes and stuff like that struggle against shining spears because they have -1 to hit natively, so all the single shot powerful weapons like plasma guns aren't going to be that effective. They have -1 to wound if you throw something like Fortune on them, which can make them durable enough to kind of prevent your opponent from killing all of them. You have the
Yeah.
Exarch left at the end of the day. Then you have that 4+ invul, so you can always say, oh, okay, I'm going to use my fate dice to, throw this on here at the last second. Oh, you just need that one more shot to kill the Exarch, and you're firing a couple last cannons at it to try to kill it. Oh, there you go.
Or
Right, 4 up, or I'm just going to use a fate dice for it and just save it. So I think that is cool about them. I
there's
really
another
wish,
unit.
yeah.
There's another unit I think that is a decent support unit for them,
Uh-huh.
and it's something that I think everybody wants to try to use, but nobody ever will because it's not great, and that's just the Autarch Skyrunner.
Oh, yeah. Let's go to that guy real quick. Let's go to the Autarch Skyrunner. I wish they could join together. If they could
I
join
wish they
together, I think they would be considered. I really do. I think people would consider running that. Gosh, I'm sorry. It's
and
all
don't
blurry
forget
because
we
it's
could
loading.
put don't
Yeah.
forget we can give them a little enhancement too.
Oh yeah, dude. You can give them the enhancement. So this guy is such a meme. But you know what? I mean, rules is written technically. You could just have him in reserve farming command points, right? Because you
Yeah.
technically can use his ability from reserve for some reason.
Ooh,
So
that's actually spicy.
yeah, just have him sitting in reserve for 3 turns, man. Just like okay, he's getting his command point every turn,
Yeah, then
and
he
you just
comes out and just starts flapping.
yeah, dude. Yeah, exactly, right. Come out of reserve and charge something with a fade
Start
dice,
blasting.
like yeah, sure, he can do that. He has a laser lance.
Right, and he's hitting on twos.
Yep, he hits on twos just like the Star Lance does.
Right, so like just have a little Autarch Skyrunner with your rolling with your shining spears. You get a little
hmm
extra punch. You could use the fusion gun if wanted.
You know what I will say though, and it's not like that big of a deal, but so I did run an Autarch Skyrunner with my jet bike list. I ran one of them, and I basically always ran him solo. And there was a situation where I had a charge on a unit that just got out of a transport, and I had, I think, a 7-inch charge with my Autarch Skyrunner, and I think I had like a 4-inch charge with my Shining Spears. It was something like that. And what I noticed is that the huge bases of the Shining Spears, because they're technically not part of the same unit, you have to declare which one you charge, right? And you have to do that charge move. And then sometimes if you have two separate units, it kind of messes that up a little bit.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I charged my Shining Spears in first because those were the ones I really needed to get in. And then my Autarch was there, and I was just like, uh oh, there's no room. I literally can't charge him in anymore. And that was my mistake, but it can be a little tricky running him like that. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but you could do it. I mean, for sure. It's just he doesn't have
Yeah,
lone
just
op or anything, but
looking at him as just a little support unit for the shining spears,
yeah,
and you
he's
could give him a
cool.
little bodyguard unit too. Just three
Oh,
more
for
shooting
sure.
cannons for the party.
Oh, for sure, dude. Or you can put the Phoenix Gem on him, right? You can use his Ride the
Exactly.
Wind
And
ability. So,
now he's got 10 wounds.
yeah, so exactly. He can go on an objective with the Shining Spears. He gives 2 OC. So that's not
So you talk
nothing.
about a serious like objective holding right there too, I
Yeah,
feel.
for sure. I mean, I think the Autarch Wayleaper can do that, but only has OC1 if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
OC1, right? So, I mean, there could be some interesting situations where you have this guy on an objective with a Phoenix Gem, maybe an enemy commander that has OC1 kills him in combat, and then he just resurrects, and it's like, oh, nope, I hold the objective, you know?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
somebody sends like a, melee specialist to kill him, kills him in combat, and then he just resurrects and controls the objective. That's funny. That's like the most troll thing you could do. That was like the old gosh, what was that psychic power in ninth edition where it gave you objective secured? Remember that one? God, I can't
Oh
remember what it was
yeah.
called, but it was so troll, dude, because it was just like, oh nope, I'm objective secured. I have an objective
Right.
secured warlock, and I'm gonna throw my, single warlock on the objective and take it away from your like 10-man Terminator unit.
So good.
Some dumb thing like that. Ninth edition had so many weird things to it. Like, it was really fun because there were so many weird things that you could do. But at the same time, like, I had some buddies who were like not as good at the game, and every time I'd play against them, they'd be like, "Dude, every time I face you, you have some weird shit that you pull on me, like weird Eldar thing." It's like it wasn't even Eldar stuff half the time. It was just the game. It was just ninth edition.
Yeah.
God, that's
I
funny.
As far as the Shining Spear is like in a six pack, it's I don't think it's worth it.
To me, I think it's two
But
because of their base
it
size.
does make guide more interesting though for
It
sure. And
does.
it makes it feel better to use stratagems on them.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Like, it absolutely does. I think the six pack is funny because you only have a 6-inch range on the Star Lances and the Laser Lances.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of hard because of their base size. It's kind of hard to actually get the rear like Shining Spears in range of that. That's really just why I don't like them in a six pack. I think they should change that to be 12 inches. There's no reason that should be a 6-inch range. I don't.
Yeah.
And then here's my other problem with it, right? Like the Laser Lances don't have pistol, so they can't be fired in close combat. So that's a
True.
little bit frustrating, to be honest, because it just means that they don't have the ability to really use these a lot, and it's part of their point cost. Why did they cost 120 points? Well, they have two shooting attacks. You know, one of them just can't really be used that often, which sucks.
That would be neat. Just a built-in rule where they get to also shoot their laser lance,
Oh
so you
yeah,
won't
dude.
get your lance ability, but get another shot with it.
Sure, yeah, that's exact. That reminds me of a unit from War Machine in the Retribution of Syrah army. I don't know. I know I'm talking about a different game system now, but they had a unit of cavalry which had gun lances, and the gun
Huh.
lances could be used exactly like you just described. Like instead of having a melee attack, they had this ability called Gunfighter, and they could shoot twice in combat instead of just attacking once with their lance. So it was like this like option you had. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be interesting. Or like give it the extra attack special rule in combat, like, which is just one extra
I,
attack but at a certain strength and AP and stuff like that. Like a
do you
tail,
think
you know.
do you think they'd be busted if you could put the Autarch with them?
I think they would just be good. I don't think they'd be busted.
They'd
I
just be
think they would
good.
just be a better unit, like the Autarch Skyrunner.
Right.
I think they would, the Autarch actually gives them an ability they can use, which is the Auto Advance
It'd
6.
make them both be worth somewhat using at some point,
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. And
Just
obviously
sitting on the
though,
shelf.
I think the Autarch Skyrunner does need the Banshee mask. He does need, the options that the others have. He just doesn't because they don't have a new kit for him. But as soon as we get a new kit for him, I think in the Codex that's
I think he
coming.
needs a I think he needs a way cooler melee weapon too,
Yeah,
like
dude, he needs. Oh
some
yeah,
sick
right.
axe or something.
He needs
Like, let's
something,
go.
dude. Well, he needs to be able to take the Starglaive, right? I mean, like, he needs to be able to have the options that the other Autarchs have. He just doesn't have any options. That's his issue. But yeah, I think he could be good with Shining Spears. I think that would be awesome, dude. And you could even say, um, yeah, he can join certain units. Like, I actually think that I'm not going to scroll up again, but I actually think the Autarchs should be able to join Aspect Warriors. I think that's something that should happen. Unfortunately, they just
Absolutely.
don't. Yeah, I don't think it'd be hard either. It's like, if this model is equipped with a warp jump generator, it can join warp spiders. If this model is equipped with swooping hawk wings, it can join swooping hawks. If this model's on foot, it can join, aspect close combat aspects, whatever.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I hope they do something like that in the Codex, honestly, because I'm tired of seeing all these new Space Marine captains, and they can join so many. God, Space Marine players have so many different lieutenants and captains and everything that can
I,
join every single one of their units. Like,
I'm not gonna complain too much though because I'm happy for the Wayleaper in general.
yeah, the lone operative, dude. Like,
Yeah, he's
that's
nasty.
that's really why it's good, though, man. I mean, if it didn't have lone operative, let's be real, dude, it would suck. Like,
I want to make the triple
it
Wayleaper
wouldn't be
list
that good.
great.
Yeah, dude, the triple way leaper, dude. We're gonna have to talk about that in another video because that's a whole thing, dude. Like that's a whole thing. The triple way leaper bomb, dude. That's
All of
crazy stuff, dude.
enhancements.
Yeah, dude. You gotta go for the full thing. If you're gonna go for it, go for the full thing. Yeah, Shining Spears are cool. They have great models, man. That's what I love about it. They have fantastic sculpts. I just wish
It's
they
so
they
cool.
they just need a little bit of something, man. Like, it's sad because I had recently bought one of these units on eBay and it looked great in the picture, and then it arrived like all busted up, and I was like, I had to like return it because it was so damaged and in transit.
Oh,
I wanted
the
these
small.
though.
I do miss the small bases running the nine
Yeah,
pack.
dude.
Oh
Yeah, the
man.
small bases are really, unfortunately, they're gone forever. But
Yeah.
it was a good thing, that they had them. Well, it's like jet bikes, like Wind Rider jet bikes. They have small bases. They're really easy to maneuver. They're really easy to like, kind of move around the
Yeah.
battlefield and stuff. And unfortunately, we're stuck with the large bases for these, which does suck. I just think that's probably the way GW is going to do it from now on with models like this. Like if we ever get a jet bike model in the future, like when we get an Autarch Skyrunner, it's going to be unfortunately on a large base.
Uh,
It's going to be on that big base, that big flying base.
no.
Yeah, dude, it is.
No
You know it to
way.
be true.
No
Search your
way.
soul. You know it to be true. Absolutely, dude. It's gonna be on the large base. It's like the base sizes are ridiculous, man. Like I was looking at a warlock the other day, like one of the new warlocks in comparison
Yeah,
to
well,
like
yeah.
like the guardians. I'm like, why is the base so much bigger? Why is it on a 32 mil? Like it's Eldar, dude. Like these aren't Space Marines. They should be on smaller bases. They should be on 28 millimeter max. You know? I don't know. That's my opinion on base
Yeah, well,
sizes, but it doesn't.
we also be abusing that for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. We've been abusing the 25 millimeter like bases because we have such old models. Like warp spiders are still on 25 millimeter.
Yeah,
Dude, you know that's being
let's run 30
abused in
warp
competitive play,
spiders.
dude. Like you have those warp spiders just like packed, like a little packed into a small little ruin,
Dude, imagine that 30 warp spiders. Yeah, just
just all in the same ruin, just like
yeah,
you could do it. I
go,
mean, you could fit them
go to
all
the
in there.
layer.
You could literally probably fit about 20 in like the standard, like bottom story ruins. Like just have them totally hidden from everybody, just like, you know.
Yeah, somebody comes within 24 inches, 36
Yeah,
inches.
dude. It's funny because they literally should be on 28 millimeters, like, but they're not. You know, that's funny. I'm hoping for new warp spiders soon. I've heard that
Oof.
they're coming, dude.
Warp
I've heard that
spider
they're
Phoenix
coming.
Lord.
Yeah, dude. I've
I
heard that.
wish.
I've heard that the warp spider Phoenix Lord is on his way. But
Really?
yeah, soon. Soon. It's been hinted at in some lore bits and stuff like that here and there.
Oh,
Yeah, dude.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's gonna be cool, dude. I think its rules like are gonna be absolute garbage. It's gonna come out. It's gonna be all epic. It's gonna have this like epic model, like like has 4 blades instead of 2 blades. Like it's gonna be like Count Grievous or something like that from Star Wars. And then
Right.
the rules are gonna be awful, dude. Like the weapons are gonna suck. Like it's just going to be terrible because they want to limit the amount of people who buy it, like only for collectors and true Eldar fans. It's like just make the rules good so I can actually like enjoy the model and enjoy playing it. Oh
Actually, you know
man,
what? I think perfect points for Shining Spears right now would be like 95.
I think that'd be
95 would
fine,
be
dude.
where
I
that's where
think
it
like
needs to be.
I almost think they should be 90, but 95 is fine. I wouldn't be mad at that. I think they do need a reduction. You know, if you
20 more
compare them
points
to other
than
things, they're just not.
Hawks.
What was that? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
They'd only be 20 more points than like swooping Hawks at
Yeah,
that
I think they'd
point.
be fine at that. You know, I think they'd be fine at that price point. I think GW needs to give some thought to internal balance in codexes. Like they say they're going to do it all the time, but they never do.
Yeah.
Like it's like a running joke now. Internal balance. Like I want to make a meme where it's like internal balance,
Especially,
and then like the next like it's just like
especially when your book is so deep.
yeah, they're exactly, dude. Like they just don't care about that really. I think what they care about the most is making sure that the numbers look good on paper. Like as long as the tournament win rates are like somewhat okay, they don't really care about anything else, you
Well,
know?
the funny part is the numbers would look better on paper if they would just make all the units worthwhile
Sure,
using.
yeah, they'd look I totally agree.
They'd look amazing.
But you know what though? It takes a lot of work, and I don't think they really want to
No,
do
for
that.
sure.
Like it takes work to look at a unit and say why is this unit bad? Because you have to understand like a lot of these guys who work for GW, they don't play like we do. They don't play as much or think about the game as much as we do. You know, they're 9 to 5ers like, you know? So like when they're looking at balance, like yeah, sure they're mostly just looking at tournament data, you know? They're not
Yeah,
looking
for
at
sure.
which like what units exactly are terrible, you know, unless an army is doing really bad in the tournament scene. Then they go back and the index and say, well, what units are never used? Oh, these units are
Yeah.
never used. Well, we'll buff those never used units, and that's how units get buffs. But unfortunately, that's just not going to be the case with an army that was, 57% win rate. You know, like they're just not going to look at us. They're just going to be like, nope, nerfs. Gotta have nerfs. Like, but I'm hoping, Eldar is still looking good, but I'm hoping that next time around, like I always hope and pray to Isha, that we'll get some buffs for things like, Howling Banshees, Shining Spears, the Autarch
Shining
Skyrunner,
Spear
and
off
stuff like
top.
that. Yeah, Shining Spears need a points reduction, I think, or they need some sort of other ability, like to make them worth 120, right? Like that's really where it is. They definitely need that. But
Advance and charge.
Advance and Charge would be cool. That would be a great ability, you know? Um, I actually think that'd be perfect, but they probably won't get that. Or
No.
some sort of, I mean, they won't get that. Let's be real. They're just gonna get a points reduction at best. You know, if I've learned anything from the trends of 10th edition so far, it's that things only get changed in the rules if they've already tried nerfing them like before, or buffing them before their points and nothing
I,
worked. Like
I
that's why
see.
the Dark
I wonder
Eldar
if
were changed.
a lot of that has to do with like when they released 10th edition, they printed off so many like mistakes of just product. That
Oh,
was just
dude,
wrong product.
it was just
So
absolutely,
now it's just easier. We'll just switch points and tinker with points because
yeah,
then we don't have to, you know,
right.
go change all of our product that we already made
Oh, I
and,
totally agree with
and
that.
make everyone upset.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's an element to that, but at the same time, I think if you did change rules, like I for one think a lot of players would find it refreshing. Like I would be
Mm,
so happy if they tinkered more with the rules and less with like points and stuff.
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
cause like then I can still run my army. Like if you tinker with rules instead of points, like if I have something a certain amount purchased already, like I don't have to stop using certain units. Like I can just use them in different ways. Like like I'm all for rule changes. I just think rule changes are harder and they don't want to do the extra work required because rule changes require playtesting. Points changes don't. Points changes
Um,
require very little playtesting. Like you don't really need to test that much because you know that, oh, if it's more points, then their list is going to have less stuff and that means it's going to be less effective. It's very easy to actually do that, you know?
yeah,
Like it's like when last edition and ninth edition when Eldar were, I think they were sitting at like 56% win rate or something like that, like right after their codex like came out. It was like 56, 57. It wasn't like that much like it wasn't like the beginning of 10th, but it was still pretty like, oh yeah, no, they're doing great. They got a new codex. And then they just blanket nerfed the whole codex like points, like everything got just increased by 1 point because they didn't know how it was actually OP. Like they didn't understand and they didn't want to put the work into understanding like what units were actually being used. They just said, "Oh, nope, just make everything more expensive."
right.
You know? And I'm hoping that stops, because it seems like it has for the most part. It seems like they're just picking and choosing which things change, which is good, you know. So I'm grateful for that. I think GW is making slow improvements over balance, but I mean, when you have a unit that's comes out it's 120 points, and then you have something like a Wraith Knight in comparison, which was like what 390 when it came out,
Yeah,
like, and
yeah,
it's
it's so
just
cheap.
a world destroyer, and then you have something like Shining Spears being 120. Like, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me, the point. So hopefully
Not
they
at
get that
all.
right, but anyway, man. All right. Well, any closing remarks on Shining Spears, and anything you want to say to, the Eldar community about, running these guys?
Um, I, they're so cool. Just run them. Play a couple games with them, even if they're just for fun, because they can be super interesting as well. I think they would surprise a lot of people too.
I totally
Yeah,
agree.
just play them in the role that they are. I think they're a good finishing unit too. Like a unit that's like, okay, two of five are dead of the squad. The Shining Spears just go clean them up like nothing. You know.
Yep, they have that
So,
speed to definitely take advantage of that.
but as per all of our units, they still have some fragility in them, and I think that mostly is just their wounds. If they just had one more wound, they'd be perfect too.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, that would make them a lot more durable for sure. Because there's a lot of damage 2 weapons out there, but there's not a lot of damage 3 weapons out there. So I think that would do very well.
And potentially sneaky good against Necrons. I
Interesting.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, well, I think Necrons are weak in combat in general. Like a unit of
Right.
Shining Spears could charge into an Immortals, and as long as the Immortals aren't overwatching them, like they should do very well. Like it's just a matter of the regeneration. You would have to make sure that they were able to kill enough to wipe the whole unit. But I mean, other than that, yeah, I think they could do very well against certain factions and opponents, for sure, for sure, dude.
I can't wait to see what the people say about them.
The people, we'll go people saying, ah, nah, they suck, dude. That's what people say. Nah, Proxy Hammer and
Right.
DeadofNight,
I'll,
they're
I'll be trying to
they're
convince them
garbage.
otherwise.
They're garbo, dude. That's what people will say, dude. But hey, man, people said that about my Storm Guardian video way back there. I was like, hey, Storm Guardians are good guys, and they were like, nah, they're
Yeah, we'll
nah,
keep
dude, you're
preaching
crazy.
these units.
And they're actually pretty good. I mean, they've seen competitive play, so I mean, All right, man. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks for talking to me today, and
Yeah, thank
to
you.
all you out there, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.